This is a prelude to episode 770 of Into Your Head podcast. Episode 770 of Into Your Head podcast is, I suppose you could call it the beginning of the new season, would you? I think that's fair to say. We just recently finished the temporarily daily summers show, and it's nearly September when we all go back to school, except for adults and people who don't go to school and people who don't work in schools. Or apart from that, no, September the 1st is when everybody goes back to school, all the new TV shows get ready to start, and everything basically gets back to normal after a summer, and everyone says, oh, it's the new season of my podcast. I used to fall for that. I remember back in the early days there was a season 2 of Into Your Head. I think there may have been a season 3 at some point, and then I realised this is stupid. You don't put seasons on a fucking podcast. What in the name of Christ is wrong with you? But no, if there was nothing wrong with putting seasons on a podcast, this would be a new season, and it would probably be something like season 8 or 9 or 10. I don't know. What else was I going to say to you? Nothing much. I'm just putting this bit in a bit at the beginning because I've just realised the show is only 22 minutes long so far, but I've already said goodbye inadvertently at the end of the last segment, which wasn't supposed to be the last segment, so I have to put this extra piece in at the beginning to get up to full length. You can't be sticking it on at the end after I've already said good morning. Good morning as in goodbye, not good morning as in hello. Now I know what you're thinking, they might both be interchangeable, but no, not the way I say them, because I always say anyway, good morning at the end, and you can't have anyway, good morning at the beginning or before the end. That would sound fucking ridiculous. That would sound as ridiculous as a cat playing a clothes peg based instrument, which would sound a bit like, here's a clothes peg here. I don't know if you can hear that. Sounds a bit like a scissors. Can you hear? Hold on. There you go. Plastic clothes peg is probably going to break now. These are the most breakable clothes pegs ever. Clothes pegs are getting progressively more breakable as the years go by, especially the recession. I think that during the recession, clothes pegs have taken a nosedive in quality. They've got nobody caring about quality anymore. It's just churn them out, pile them high and sell them expensive, and stick them in some discount store down the town. And you go up into them and you say, hello, have you got clothes pegs? And they'll say, we certainly do, unless you want to stipulate that you want clothes pegs that won't break after 2 minutes of use, because you go out to the clothes. Have I mentioned this already in the next segment? I don't think so. I did start a segment and mention a clothes peg, but I don't think I used it. Anyway, if there's another mention later in this episode of clothes pegs, I apologize for the inadvertent repetition. So anyway, as I say, it's a prelude to episode 770 about to start. In the next minute or 2 or 3, it'll be the beginning of the episode, and that'll make a mockery, I can tell you, of the last 3 or 4 minutes, in which are basically nothing. They're like, it's like when the late Robin Williams as Mork on Mork and Mindy used to go out into the emptiness to talk to his bosses from the other planets. It'd just be him on a white background, and you'd think, oh, he's in the middle of nothingness. Of course, what'll probably going to happen now is that somebody will make a fucking remake of Mork and Mindy. They'll get fucking some gobshite to play Mork, and they'll get some other gobshite to play Mindy, and they'll get some other gobshite to play their wacky roommate or something. Do you still have roommates in America? You probably do. We don't call them roommates over here. We call them people, because roommates are people too, you know. We just call them the people we live with. These are the people in your It's like the Sesame Street song. These are the people in your neighborhood. These are the people. Sesame Street spent the last 40 years trying to teach you Americans how to talk about your fellow human beings and call them your neighbours. And what do you call them? No, you call them roommates. Although I suppose if they're living in the same apartment unit as you, they're not neighbours. They'd have to be living next door to be neighbours, wouldn't they? I'm not sure. Probably true. You could call them your co-inhabitants, or you could call them your spouse, or you could call them whoever they are to you. I don't know. Anyway, on with the beginning of the episode. On this episode, number 770 of Into Your Head podcast. Hello. Lots of stuff. Absolutely fucking fantastic. Hello. Into your head. A lot to get on with today. Items that need to be attended to, issues that need to be addressed, topics. Topics. We've got lots and lots of topics. We're positively booming to the seams with topics. We've got topics coming out of this plastic wrapper. This plastic wrapper that has a barcode on it. I can't read barcode myself. I never learned the barcode language, but I can read the numbers underneath that I assume are represented by the barcode. They're not very interesting. They're just a series of digits. There seems to be some Chinese on the label as well. I don't know what the Chinese mean. I presume it means, if I were to translate this, it would say something like, this wrapper contained a cheap pair of earphones that you got on eBay today. And you tore it open and you took out the earphones, and then you put this down on your desk and you say, next time I'm going to a bin, I bring this with me, and I leave this clothes peg beside it as well, because that's still of no use up here. There's no reason to have clothes pegs upstairs. It must have fallen out of something. So have a little pile here of stuff that's to be brought downstairs next time I'm going down. If I ever go down the stairs again, that is. I probably will. There's a 99.99999% probability that I will go down the stairs again at some point, unless I'm struck by lightning while I'm doing this podcast, or unless somebody drives a lorry into the lower floor of this house and causes the upper floor to collapse in on the ground floor, and it becomes a bungalow, in which case I'll have no reason to go downstairs, because for one thing, the upstairs will have become the downstairs, and I know what you're thinking there. You're thinking, oh well, then you will be downstairs, so you'll have gone downstairs. Not true. No, I won't have gone anywhere. The upstairs will have transformed around me into a downstairs. I won't have gone downstairs. I'll just be downstairs. It's like the way if you're standing over there beside Mars, and Mars is orbiting the sun, so it moves around. And if you close your eyes for a couple of months, you're supposed to. You need to make assumptions first. Assume that you're suspended in space, and that breathing and food and etc. isn't a problem. This is a thought experiment. You don't need to have the real thing, so you don't need to be able to breathe or be able to survive in space. Just pretend you can, and then you're sitting there. You're about a mile from Mars, and then you wait about 3 months, and Mars has moved on because Mars is moving. Well, you're still exactly where you are. It's just that Mars has moved. Well, it'd be the same if the downstairs floor of this house collapsed in on itself, and the upstairs became the downstairs. I wouldn't have moved unless you consider falling with the house as moving. But if I move with the house, if the floor stays intact and I'm still on it, sitting on this chair, then I haven't moved in relation to the surroundings around me, and that's all that movement is. I was listening to Professor Stephen Hawking going on about this recently. He says that's all that movement is, or something to that effect. Anyway, hello and welcome to the show. I've always been a great believer in the dictum. Tesco, chewable vitamin C, 200 milligram tablets. Absolutely fucking delicious. They're fucking delicious. That's what these are. If there was a fruit available in this flavor, I would definitely eat it. I would eat 5 of them a day, or whatever the recommended dose is. But unfortunately, the problem with these is they're vitamins. You can't just pour a whole bottle of them down your gullet, much as I'd like to. I assume you can't anyway. I assume you'd get vitamin C poisoning. Your face would go orange, and you'd have to go out. You'd have to go out and explain to everyone why you're orange, and you'd have to say, do you have a problem with me being orange? And they'd say, not really a problem, just a concern. I have a concern about your sudden orangeness. So maybe if I upped the dosage gradually, so I became very, very gradually orange in increments, nobody would notice. And then one day I'd just be totally orange, a bit like the way Michael Jackson did. He became totally, suddenly, gradually white, or wherever he became. What did he become? He became dead. That's what he became. But no, before that, he became white. White as a sheet, white as a ghost. He's probably even more white as a ghost now. If you can get any more white than white, you probably can't. Maybe you can get luminous white, but that's not more white. It's just exaggerated white. It's white. It's got good lighting behind it or something. It doesn't make it any more white. It's either white or it's not. That's what it is. This fan heater up here is white. It's white. Hasn't been used since about June. I went to use it the other day, and what happened? I can't remember. Oh yes, nothing interesting happened. That's what happened. Couldn't find where the plug was. It's down behind the back of everything here. I'm going to have to dig it out before it gets fucking cold again. Otherwise I'm going to come in here one morning in late September, be fucking freezing my arse off, and I'll say, oh, I need some heat in here. I need some heat in here, and I need it pronto. I need to heat this place up immediately before I die. Like one of those men exploring the North Pole or Mount Everest, or the North Polar face of Mount Everest. They suddenly go, oh, it's very cold up here. It's very cold. I'll tell you, that cold weather creeped up on us very suddenly when we climbed up this mountain. Can somebody put the heater on? And then somebody else will say, we're up Mount Everest. How the fuck do you put a heater on? And they'll say, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. It means dig out the balaclavas and the heavier anoraks, and maybe a husky to sleep under or something, or start a fire. Maybe that's what we do, start a fire. And of course, Mount Everest now, it's covered in soot and leftover dust and ashes from all these fires that people are setting up. They're bringing in the government over there, wherever I was reading recently, the government in wherever Mount Everest is, if it's in the country. I don't know if it's in the country. Maybe it's too high up to be in a country. Surely to Christ, if you're that far up into space that you're up on top of Mount Everest, that can't be part of a country, unless countries are 3-dimensional now, which I very much doubt they are. It's like if you were to object to a space shuttle flying over your house, you say, oh, that space shuttle is invading my back garden. It's flying directly over my back garden. That's my private property. It should get my permission, unless there happens to be a county council right of way where they're allowed to go over it. No, it wouldn't be. Nobody would listen to you with that crap. They'd say, you're talking a load of crap. I'm not listening to that. And you'd say, how do you know I'm talking a load of crap if you're not listening to it? And they'll say, well, I listened to your opening summary. Just like when you look at a scientific study in a journal of science, there's a thing at the beginning, I forget what it's called. Is it an excerpt? That's what it is. There's a thing at the beginning called an excerpt or something, and it gives basically a summary of the whatever it is, the journalistic the scientific study, whatever the hell it is I was talking about. No, anyway, space. You can't can't be treating space as if it's part of your own back garden. Because for another thing, that's if you're up at a particular point in space, you could be over my garden, but you could also be over somebody else's garden on another planet. If you're doing a direct line from then, and then as well, you have on top of that the fact that the planets move. So no, not really feasible to have to own property overhead in space above your house, or to assert that you own it. Have a hell of a lot of legal troubles trying to claim that. I can tell you, it might be worth it in the end. Maybe if you could find the money to invest about $3 billion in legal aid to fight your case, it might be worth doing if the end result is going to be that you own half of space. I suppose you charge rent to people. What they did, they'll probably just stop going into space. Then people will just stop going into space. You wouldn't make any rental income. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. You probably haven't. There was a fella in the news the other day in England. He lives in a town where there's road works going on and there's a road closed. So he's opened a temporary road going through his own property, and it's a toll road. And he says, come up here, take a shortcut through my property, basically through his back garden or his farm or something. And he says, he set up a little toll booth, and he says, give me money and you can come on through. If you've got the money, I've got the shortcut. I've got isn't that a Pet Shop Boys song? A song by the Pet Shop Boys. I've got the looks and you got the brains. Let's make lots of money. I've got the brains and you got the something. Let's make lots of money. I hope they did make lots of money, because that'd be a little disappointing for them if they didn't. If you make a song saying although it wasn't autobiographical, it was. I think he was talking about a fictional thing where he sets up some sort of an enterprise with some woman, some sort of a business, entertainment, show business enterprise. I assume he was already in a showbiz entertainment enterprise with the other fella out of the Pet Shop Boys. So this was like Inception. He was going down another level into a fictional world where he goes in. Although he's perfectly entitled to have more than one fictional enterprise. You're allowed to be in more than one band. Your man Roger Taylor out of Queen, he had the Cross, and he had his solo enterprises. Who else? Your man Bono out of U2, he has that stuff he does. He goes off and says stuff to governments about the third world. He says, listen to me, have you heard about this place called Africa? I'll play you a little song about it. Here we go. There's a song about it that one of my fellow pop musicians wrote. It goes a little something like this. I bless the rains down in Africa. I bless the rains down in Africa. So Bono plays a little bit of that, and then he's got everybody's attention. You see, he works it to his advantage. If you have a bit of musical or entertainment talent, you can work that to your advantage to get everybody's attention. And then when you got their attention, he goes into a musical interlude, where he goes between choruses, and there's just an instrumental, and then he starts talking about Africa. And then I tell you, he's got them by the short and curlies. He's got their attention. He can lecture them about how to change the third world, and that's how Bono does it. He's a very intelligent man. I used to live near Bono, or they used to. Yes, I did. That's right. I lived near Bono more than once. I lived near Bono in a place called Bray on the east coast of Ireland. My mother saw him going for walks along the Esplanade. And then he moved. Well, he was moving all the time. Walking is moving. But no, he moved to another house somewhere else, further up the coast. He's probably never at home anyway. Why would you be at home? There's no reason to be at home when the world is your oyster. You're off travelling the world with your band and with your political influences and with whatever else you have. Why would you need a house? He doesn't need to have a house at all. But as it happens in those days, he had a very nice house beside a little historic tower, and presumably he lived in building. I presume occasionally he went home and lived with it. Even when you're away, you're still living in the house if you're a resident of it. But no, he lived in it. Presumably he ate sandwiches sometimes in it. Presumably he went to bed sometimes in it. Presumably he sat up watching television sometimes in it. Although it was a historic building, Martello Tower, or maybe he wasn't allowed to have a television aerial on it, which will be a bummer. Although they do have piped television in that town. They always did in those days, so maybe he had that. I don't know. He could always just go round to the pub round the corner and watch Sky Sports via satellite if he's into that sort of thing.
Into your head. Remember, we value the opinions of you, the humble and ignorant listener. Email studio@intoyourhead.com.
studio@intoyourhead.com.
Matchstick cats. Matchstick cats. Matchstick cats. Matchstick cats and stuff.
Are you a cat? Or do you know somebody who might be? Then tell yourself about Matchstick Cats, Neal's webcomic. Brand new episodes at intoyourhead.com.
Intoyourhead.com.
Two cats walk into Bono's former home on the east coast of Ireland, about 12 miles south of Dublin city centre, in case you're wondering. You can get the electric train out. It's not an underground electric train, it's an overground electric train. It goes over the ground, goes pretty much straight out from Dublin. You get on the train and then the doors close behind you, and then you sit down if you can get a seat, or you stand up if you can't. You're already standing up when you're walking. You come to a stop and you just stand there and get out of everybody's way. Don't block the doors, because people need to get in and out through the doors. Don't be blocking the doors on the electric train. Anyway, you get on the electric train, presumably in the Dublin city centre. Chances are, well, depends where you're coming from. You're probably coming from the point of view of a listener, in which case please make an appointment first. But no, actually, no, don't, because I don't live on the electric trainway line. So if you're getting that out to Bray, you won't be coming anywhere near me, so you don't need an invitation or an appointment from me. It's nothing to do with me. I don't live out in those parts anymore. Haven't done for many years. No, you see, you get on the train and then you get out to the second last stop, which used to be the last stop until they extended it. For you get off at the second last stop, and then you go out into the outside real world, outside of the suburban commuter rail line world. You go out into the real world where people have legs and cars and fresh air, and everything isn't powered by a ridiculous 40-mile long electric wire cable that's plugged in somewhere on the north side of Dublin. Fucking ridiculous. And then you go round to the right, and you go round the corner, you go through the level crossing gates if they're open, or you go up over the pedestrian bridge and down the other side, and then you go down for about another 2 minutes, and then you turn left and you walk for about another 4 minutes, and it's there on the left, just before the harbour, Bono's old house. There's a Martello Tower with a house beside it. I think they're both part of the same property. Can't remember now. It's not Bono's house anymore, so if you go up and knock on the door, you won't be annoying him. You'll be annoying whoever he bought the property off, presumably for a lot of money, although not as much as they get a few years later when there was the main property boom. Although if they'd waited till after that, now it'll be fuck all the last few years. Well, it's probably going up again. But let's not get bogged down in the economic cycle, especially the Irish property market, because that's a whole different kettle of fish, whole different ball game, an entirely different metaphor as well. So no, it'll be anyway. You go up to Bono's house, and what was the purpose of this story? I can't remember. Was this a two cats walk into a bar story? I can't remember. Was it two cats? Oh yes, it was two cats walk into Bono's old residence in Bray. So two cats walk into Bono's old residence in Bray. I don't know if they got the electric train out. There's a good chance that they didn't. Maybe they're just from the area, in which case they would have just walked. But either way, it adds a bit of colour. Anyway, the two cats go up to their front door and they go meow, 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 meow. Look at us, we're cats. And some old woman comes up to their front door and opens it and says, hello, you appear to be cats. And the cats say, we are indeed, we're cats, we're both cats. Meow, 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 meow. And the woman says, okay, don't wear it out. And the cats say, what'll happen? Why? What'll happen if we do? Will we be dead if we wear out our status as cats? Will we be dead? Will we cease to be cats, or what will happen? And the woman says, no, you'll just become a person, what do you call it, a caricature of yourself. You become one of those people who's just a caricature of yourself. You'll go around, you'll be in pubs all the time, and people will come up to you and say, oh, do your impression of a cat. And you'll say, I am doing my impression of a cat. And they'll say, no, do it the way you did that time on the doorstep outside Bono's old house. Do it properly. You're not even trying. And I can tell you, that sort of thing does a lot of damage to your psyche, I can tell you. You mightn't realise now as young cats, but that sort of thing, I can tell you, it has an impact on you. You'll never be the same again. Mark my words. And the cats say, oh, thank you very much for the advice. Anyways, Bono here. And the woman says, why in the name of Christ would Bono be here? And the cats say, I don't know, maybe finishing off the transfer of property. And the woman says, if the transfer of property wasn't complete yet, I wouldn't have moved in yet, for one thing. For another thing, we bought the house about 10 years ago. And for a further thing, why in the name of Christ are you here? And the cats say, never mind. Sorry to disturb you, madam. And the madam says, that's okay. Don't tell anybody I'm running a whorehouse here. And the cats say, we weren't going to, because we didn't know until this moment. You say you're running a prostitution ring. Is it a filthy paedophile murderer drugs ring with gangsters selling illegal drugs as well? And the woman says, no, I'm just a bog standard madam, secretly running a brothel in Bono's old house. Have you got a problem with that? And the cats say, we do now, because now we know about something that's illegal. We're going to have a moral quandary as to whether we need to report it. And actually, the police station is very close to here, isn't it? Or is it? Let me think now. It's about 15 minutes walk as the crow flies. And the woman says, oh, that's a bit worrying now, I suppose. That's a bit worrying, but he'd have to go up there and turn left, and then right, and then immediately left again, and through the little alleyway where the pizza place is, and then right, and then left, and then either the first right or the second right, I can't remember, and then it's left, and then it's in a gate on the left, if I remember rightly from when I lived there. So you'd never be able to remember all those directions as cats. And the cats say, that's a good point. It's good job you don't live in one of those American cities where everything's straight lines and blocks. And you can just say, oh, go up there 3 blocks and it's on your right. I tell you, there's an advantage to living in a complicated map. And the woman says, there is indeed. Thank Christ for that. And the cats say, well, I think we're done here then. And the woman says, we are indeed. And thank you for calling. And the great night is had by all. Good morning.
IntoYourHead.com.
This is an afterlude for the purposes of balance, because I did a prelude to today's episode, so this is an afterlude. You'll notice just there I didn't do my usual thing that I do at the end of saying anyway, good morning. Instead I just went, good morning. I must have been in a hurry or something. Well, why was I in a hurry? It wasn't finished yet. I hadn't made enough show yet at that point. I hadn't even made a prelude yet, so I had only done about 22 minutes. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. I do this a lot, packing up my bags before it's time to go. I do this a lot. I tend to do it on the treadmill quite a lot. I've been treadmilling a bit lately, and about 2 minutes before the end, when I realised I've almost done the amount of time I want to do, I start unplugging things, turning off the iPadlet, disconnecting everything, taking my phone off its charger, taking the towel off and throwing it over onto the chair where I'm about to go and sit and have a rest. What else do I do? I basically do all the stuff, get ready to go basically, and then I see the timer counting down to 0, and I think, Christ, the minute that gets to 0, the millisecond it turns to 0, I'm going to get off this fucking treadmill. And then usually something goes wrong. The towel I'm trying to throw goes the wrong way and lands behind the treadmill, so that delays me at the end. When I get off, I have to go and fetch the towel from where it's fallen down behind. But no, the point is, I'm always in a hurry to get up and going before I'm even finished, which I suppose you could say is efficient. You're getting ready to go. You're using every second of time to get ready for the next stage. You're multitasking. You're finishing off your treadmill, and at the same time you're getting ready for your rest, because I usually go and sit down for 10 minutes on the chair next to the treadmill, have a drink of water, listen to podcasts other than this one, because I've already heard this one. I've heard this podcast already. What else do I do? Play with my iTelephone. I probably think I'm name dropping now, because I've already mentioned in this segment I have an iPadlet attached to my treadmill, and now I'm mentioning my iTelephone. You're thinking, he's dropping the names of all these fancy gadgets he has. I am not. Well, I suppose I am in a way, but not intentionally, so effectively I am not. If I am, it's inadvertent. That's what it is. I think we're done here.